Gratitude's amazing. Just like ambition is amazing. But if you're only ambitious at the detriment of your daily life and the relationships, that's not great. And if you're only grateful at the detriment of your future and your present self and your relationship, that's not great either. So there's a juggling act there.
The cool part about gratitude is it helps you feel appreciative for the person's, places, things in your life. The cool part about complaining and frustration is it helps you identify things that could be better. If I'm complaining about Kevin, it's because I believe he could be better.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Today, for episode number 1943, it's Freestyle Friday. And last week we jeffed it because we were so focused on what we were talking about. Usually Freestyle Friday is we just roll in. We don't really have an episode in mind. We just want to have a deep conversation and see where it goes. And then we name it after. We don't even know the name of it. This was my thought. And I know we kind of talked about this recently, but how many times in your life, so two questions. One, how many times in your life have you been told that you think too much? That's question one. Question two is, what would Alan's life look like if he didn't, quote unquote, think too much? That's where we're going to start today.
Nice start. How many times have I been told you think too much? I'd say hundreds. Hundreds for sure.
That many?
I don't know if I can say thousands. Yeah, hundreds. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Or things along the lines of, I just don't think about it, or don't think about it, or don't worry about that. Brushed off. Like different versions of you think too much.
How many people have literally said, Alan, you think too much? If you had to guess.
At least 50. Yeah, at least 50. One of my boss's boss at one of the automation companies that I worked for said, for anyone with kids in the room, earmuffs, said, don't mind fuck it. Don't overthink it. And I remember thinking, why not? I never understood. Thinking is really, really, really important. That is the one human skill that we have that has built everything that we enjoy, right? Everyone can look around. I'm looking at my office. There's a whiteboard, and there's a mouse, and there's a laptop, and there's a phone, an iPhone. There's this mug, and there's a 52-inch TV. Every one of these things was created by thinking. My very first personal development book, this is way before I was into self-improvement, at least consciously, was How Successful People Think. And I'm a big thinker. I think thinking is, of course, I'm biased with this, but I think thinking is more important than everything else. By far. It is. Yeah,
we talked about that recently. We did an episode recently. The reason I asked is I've told the story before, but at the time, I think it was more ego. The way I felt about my response was more ego than it is today. But I was seeing a young lady, and when she essentially stopped talking to me, and the last thing she said was, "You think too much. Like, why can't something just be the way it is? Like, why do you have to think about it so much?" And that was it. And I was like, because I want to. Like, that's what I like that. I think there's power in that. And then she never talked to me again. Whatever, right? Whatever. It is what it is.
Maybe you should go get a partner who doesn't think. That sounds like a good life.
That's probably, maybe that's what that person wants, right? You do you. But I'm willing to bet that person most likely is not going to drastically alter the direction of their life. I'm willing to bet.
What was the second part of the question?
Where would you be without overthinking, quote unquote?
Oh, no, not good. Without thinking, I don't want to call it overthinking because I don't think there's such a thing. There is if you're overly ruminating at the expense of it. So there is. Okay. But without thinking, I would be in a very not good place. Very, very not good.
It makes sense.
Terrible.
But that's why I think for some people, when some people tell you that, they ask you, do you need to think so much? Why do you think so much? Maybe for them, it's not positive. Because maybe they're somebody who their drive to 5 is they just need to think less and do it. I asked somebody recently, I was interviewing them, I was doing a producer episode in their podcast, and I said, which one of these defines you the best? Ready, aim, fire. Ready, fire. Aim, fire, 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 fire. Like what is your syntax? Like how do you work best? And they said, honestly, I'm way more ready than you probably would guess.
So it's ready, aim would be someone who procrastinates? They never
ready,
fire.
aim, yeah.
Ready, aim. And then ready, fire would be someone who doesn't think. So they don't
What's
aim.
ready? Like what if you just did ready, fire?
That would be someone who doesn't think enough because you got to aim. You and I just strategized business strategy for...
Too long.
Probably. We did business strategy for at least 45 minutes, probably an hour. And then I talked to you about personal stuff, strategy, learning, contemplation for another half an hour. And now we're recording. The fruits of that cognitive labor. Whoa. I mean, you don't know necessarily, but
I know.
to me, that's what makes all of this even possible.
But it's so invisible.
Yeah, it's called invisible work. Yeah.
It's very invisible, and it's one of those things where it's a seed that gets planted that might not blossom for years and years and years, and you might not even realize when it blossoms. It might blossom, and then it might grow and grow and grow, and then you might eventually say, oh yeah, now upon reflection, I realize that actually blossomed. So as you know, I love mixed martial arts, and the UFC is back this weekend. I'm very excited. They've been on break. They take like 3 or 4 weeks at the end of the year. It's atrocious. It's atrocious. And one of the journalists I like, and this is a really cool connection for me. One of the journalists I like, his name is Luke Thomas. He's a 6'6" dude who is in the military, but went to school. And when he went to college, he studied 2 things. He studied political science, and he studied philosophy.
Nice.
And he was talking yesterday in his live stream, because I'm still under the weather. I've been spending a lot of time in bed and just trying to find stuff to watch. And he was saying, bar none, the best class I ever took in any schooling I ever did was philosophy.
Yeah.
And I think the reason I like listening to him so much is he talks a lot about the and. Almost nothing he says is ever, this is the way it is and there is no other way. It's almost always, this is a way, and if you want to look at it from this other way, that's something too. One of our clients, Marcus, I did a producer episode with him. He has a degree in philosophy as well.
What's a producer episode, just for the listeners? Because I know we both coach. Shout out to
Yeah.
Chris. He said that. He said, I did my first producer episode with Kev. And
It's
I was
always
like,
fun
nice.
with Chris. Yeah, Chris
Nice.
is good people.
Yeah, he is.
I always, free advice, expert tip, as Alan once said in an episode.
Pro
We
tip.
were like,
Pro
that sounded so terrible.
Yeah.
If you're a podcaster who is trying to build expertise in your niche, do solo episodes. So you literally, what Alan is going to be doing for Business Growth U, what I do for Podcast Growth U, sit in front of the camera and solve a problem for your audience. Not all of our clients are ready to do that yet. So what I do is I essentially join them as a co-host, and I just ask them questions about the thing, and I try to lead them in a valuable direction, which is awesome because I scratch the itch of interviewing. It's a great test. It's outside of my comfort zone, so it's really good. But one of our
FYI, sir.
Yeah.
You said solve a problem for your audience. No. Help them identify a problem.
Depends.
Then identify the root cause of said problem.
Well, that's
Then solve that problem for them and take none of the credit. Thoughts?
that's one way to do it.
I'm just joking.
Probably not the way I would suggest.
Yeah.
But that's one way to do it. one of our other clients, Marcus, I did an interview, a producer episode with him last month. He has a degree in philosophy as well. And I resonate with that because it's very much, there's always thoughts underneath it. And I would say that if you're thinking of philosophy, you're genuinely thinking of people who think too much by definition, because what you see is not good enough. It's not good enough to just see it and say, okay, that's what it is. But there's power in that. I think there's power in that. And there's no way we would have a podcast and a business and you and I would have the relationships we do and relationships with each other if we weren't classified as overthinkers. There's no way.
Nope.
There's no way. So if somebody out there has told you that you're an overthinker, my brain is not working. It's very humbling. I would say they're wrong, number one. And I would say it would probably be beneficial for them to think more because they're probably missing out on a ton of lessons.
That's what I always used to say is to myself. I was too cowardly to say it out loud, but I would say, you think I think too much. I think you think too little.
Yeah.
Why are you trying to get me to think less? Don't we want to think more? Don't you think humanity would be better off if we all thought more?
It's scary to think a lot, though.
Well, this is a really, really harsh, hardcore, scary example, but I think the scary examples sometimes can be valuable, and no one please take this out of context, but in World War II, Hitler would burn all the books because he would try to keep people stupid. Because when you kept people stupid and they didn't think, they're easier to control. And so I think that thinking is really important because if you're not questioning yourself, questioning others, we all need to understand government and how it works and business, private versus public. And the more you understand about the world, the more control you have over your world. And I think that's really empowering. I used to talk about open source knowledge. One of my friends laughed at me for this, but I said it would be really nice to live in a world where everyone has access to knowledge. Not everyone's going to seek it, but I believe in open source knowledge. In other words, that's part of what NLU is built on is free information, free knowledge. Like, let's say there's a 15-year-old out there who doesn't hate you and I.
Shout out to you.
And they listen to Next Level University. They, through this podcast, can learn more than you and I ever knew. I mean, you can take our decades of pain, failure, frustration, challenge, learning, growth, relationships, health, wealth, life, love, and you can download it into your consciousness for free from us. 1% improvement in your pocket every day from anywhere on the planet, completely free. Next Level University. And that's what this whole podcast is built on. We used to have something called the Hyperconscious Podcast before we rebranded, and I remember I was in the studio with you, and I said, we are modern-day philosophers. And back then, you didn't identify as that. And I said, well, you never know, and again, this is a little weird, but in 1,000 years from now, like, we would be considered philosophers. Right?
I have to write my book on my thesis about the world.
Yeah, for sure. In a stone tablet or?
Probably like an iPad, I would say, to be left behind for the youthful generation.
For the folk.
For the folk.
There's a philosopher named Lucius Seneca who said, on a book called On the Shortness of Life, you got me out here philosophizing, and he said, we all pour from the time of life as if it's an endless supply. But yet, and we all protect our property vehemently, but yet we all squander the one asset that is the most precious, the one that is we should be the most careful with, which is time. You never get time back. You can earn more money. You can buy a new laptop. If someone came in and stole my laptop, I would spend my whole day trying to figure out who stole it and make sure that I call the police, whatever it is. But yet, I'm never going to get back the time. And I think that that's one thing that I think a lot of people don't contemplate. That book will fuck you up in the best way if you read On the Shortness of Life by Lucius Seneca. I read it to Emilia once. She likes to, when I read to her before bed at times. And It is a powerful book. It'll just get you questioning everything you do and don't do, which is scary.
That's why I think overthinking is scary. My voice is jeffing me. Ooh,
You
it's
need to
brutal.
do some more philosophy?
You might have to. I told Taryn today, I was like, what a shame. I could like break my arm or twist my ankle or whatever. It really wouldn't affect me that much because I can just sit in my chair. The second my voice goes, everything goes.
Yeah.
Because I speak for a living.
Brother, don't even think about it.
Yeah, no, it's why don't you just not cough?
Yeah,
You ever
why
think of
don't
this
you
not
just not
cough
think about it? Don't worry about it.
This is what I was going to say. This is my philosophy statement of the day. What goes unseen often goes unappreciated. If you think about it, most of the things, right now, I am very much understanding that I have taken my voice for granted because I can't effectively speak, which is usually very easy for me. Like, this is usually a very easy thing. Turn the cameras on, hit the mic, cool, off to the races. We can rattle off however many episodes we want. I tried to do Podcast Growth University today, and I literally could get through 10 minutes. And I had to get up in the middle of it and go get water and take breaks, and it was just the most humbling thing ever. What if I didn't think about that? And what if I didn't sit with that and say, well, what does that mean? What else am I underappreciating? What else am I taking for granted?
Mm-hmm.
I think overthinking is only overthinking if you're underacting. If you're thinking and you're taking lessons, I appreciate it, and you're taking awareness and you're able to use that information in a new way, that's very constructive. This person that told me I was overthinking, not to make them wrong, not to talk down about them, they were okay with just kind of things going the way that they were going to go. They had a decent job that they liked. They had some passions and some hobbies that they enjoyed, and they said, yeah, I'm pretty much good if this is my life forever. Then you probably don't have to think as much as I do. And that's the truth of it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what I want. I don't want just like a okay relationship. I don't want an okay business. I want the best it can be. But that's going to force me to think more than it would if... And let's imagine you have two puzzles. One puzzle has 7 pieces, and it's a fucking fire engine. And the other one is 7,000 pieces, and it's this giant...
Mosaic.
Which one you're going to have to think more to put together?
Yeah,
the second one.
Which one's going to be more terrible to put together?
The second one. But it's also going to be more beautiful.
Yep.
You're also going to have
valuable.
to say, like, more valuable. Does this piece go there? No. When there's 7 pieces, you don't have to think that much. And there's only so many ways the pieces can go. But when there's 7,000, you're going to have to go on a heck of a journey, proverbially, to get to it and get through it.
Two questions, 3 technically, because you opened with the first 2.
Oh.
The first 2 questions, what was your answer to those?
One time specifically, someone said I think too much. Only one time.
Oh shit.
Yeah, less than you.
Yeah.
It's been insinuated.
I'm very analytical.
Yeah, you're very analytical.
Mm-hmm.
It's been insinuated where people have said things like laughed at me when I talked about how if gravity decides to take a day off. Well, I mean, if you think about it though. Next time you're driving down the street, you're on a road, look up at the sky and realize that you're nothing in the grand scheme of things. It's the most humbling thing in the world. It is. It's really good.
And then I want to take us through in a sec. It's so cool. Continue.
And then the second one was, where would I be if I didn't overthink? I wouldn't be doing this.
Jeffed.
I would be Jeffed. This all started with, I want to talk about stuff that is really cool to talk about, and it might not even seem like it's important to talk about, but there's lessons buried in that. Somebody asked me this recently. They asked about the podcast and how it all started. And I said, for episode number 6, I interviewed a guy named Dan Garino that I went to middle school with. And I reached out to him on whatever it was, Facebook. And I was like, hey, Dan, long time no talk. This is going to be super weird. Just want to put that out there. I have a podcast. I'll send you an episode. And I would love for you to come up to my house. I'll have everything set up, and I just want to talk about at what your life has been like since middle school. And I was like, we'll see. This is going to be the weirdest message he's probably gotten in a minute. Maybe. And I sent him an episode. He checked it out. He said, dude, awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I'd love to. I actually live, or my partner lives close, so let's schedule it. He came up, and it was the best. I interviewed him about, he had practiced boxing. He was in a band for a while. He seemed like very confident and very outgoing, very Italian. And it was really cool. But all of the questions I asked came from me thinking too much. Some of the best questions I've ever asked were because I was thinking too much.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want
in quotes.
Too much. Yeah, these are all in quotes. I want to facilitate a conversation that hasn't been had before. And the only way to do that is to think in a way that hasn't been thought. Not necessarily ever before, but in that way. So none of this would exist. I wouldn't be doing any of this. I love this. It's the best.
Apple's slogan way back was think differently. Think differently. Think differently. Third question. Didn't get to it before. And then I have a thing I want to take everyone through that I did the other night, which was very cool, I think. And again, it might suck. My question for you was, hold on. You, sir, realize the importance and value of your voice now that you've lost it. In hindsight, is it clear that you didn't value your voice enough?
Oh, for sure. 100%.
Hello, NLU listener. Thank you, as always, for listening to Next Level University. Real quick, I just want to jump in and let you know about the Next Level Dreamliner. This is a journal that I use every single day. Achieve your dreams 90 days at a time. It breaks down your dreams into goals, milestones, and daily habits. We hope you enjoy it. The link will be in the show notes.
I feel like I'm very guilty of not valuing things until I imagine them gone. It doesn't necessarily, like, I think about Taran all the time. I think about the cats. You've heard me tell those stories before. But it's hard to always think about what things would be like without certain things. And when's the last time you thought about what life would be like without internet? I mean, there's many, or electricity, there's many people on the planet that is their everyday existence. Mm-hmm. I don't think about that much. Is it that I don't appreciate it? No, I do appreciate it. It's hard to think about all the things that we have and imagining life without them, because oftentimes I'm taking advantage of the things that we have to try to add value to the world. And it's a whole... I can't just sit around all day saying, like, big toe. Medium-sized toe.
Big toe.
Great. All the way down to the little toe, the little candy corn toe that everybody seemed to love when I talk about. It's hard to, because I think you could lose yourself if all you're doing all the time is practicing gratitude. Gratitude's amazing, just like ambition is amazing. But if you're only ambitious at the detriment of your daily life and the relationships, that's not great. And if you're only grateful at the detriment of your future and your present self and your relationship, that's not great either. So there's a juggling act.
That's why life is so hard. It's always an and. It's always an and. You can never rest on, I'm really good at this, because there's an opposite side of that coin that has devastation on the other end of it. Emilia and I have a new, I don't want to say rule, guideline in our relationship where we believe that innovation comes from frustration. And so from now on, we're very grateful. And we always talk about our gratitudes. We do them every night. And from now on, when we talk about things and that we're grateful for, we always say and then share a frustration. And I'll give you a tiny example. I have this new mug that my mom got me. And it's this big, huge glass mug. I mean, this thing can fit 2 full Diet Canada Dries in it.
Nice. It's
great. Big fan. Because I don't have to get up twice. I mean, it's a tough life, but somebody's got to live it. And so 1 meal, 1 mug, don't have to get up. It's awesome. Because I used to just get up and get a second one if I wanted to. Diet Canada Dry, by the way, unbelievable. Huge fan. Better than the regular Canada Dry. Don't know how.
Sprite Zero is my drink of choice right now.
Just saying. So I am so grateful for this mug, and this thing is as heavy as a fucking dumbbell. I don't like it. I don't like that it's so damn heavy, but I love that it's big enough to fill me up. So here's the cool part. Why share frustrations? Why is complaining good? Complaining to complain is terrible. Please don't do that. Complaining just to complain is fairly useless, actually. Complaining to learn and to improve is world class. It's awesome. So Emilia said, don't worry, I'm going to get you the same size mug, but it's going to be not plastic, but off
Lighter.
glass. I don't know it's going to be light. It's going to be the same size mug, same thing, see-through, just like you like, but lighter. Perfect. The cool part about gratitude is it helps you feel appreciative for the persons, places, things in your life. The cool part about complaining and frustration is it helps you identify things that could be better. If I'm complaining about Kevin, it's because I believe he could be better. If I'm complaining about No, it's the first one.
Nice, cool.
If I'm complaining about me being out of shape, it's because I know I could do better. If I'm complaining that my left knee clicks when I do mobility, it's because I'm annoyed that I don't do enough mobility to where I'm aging not as well as I would like. Blah, blah, blah. So on the other side of every complaint, there is an opportunity to improve. Unless it's something that you just have to accept. Like Kevin being short is a good example. You just have to accept it. It is what it is.
That's it for me.
All right. The other thing that I wanted to take everyone through, I know we got to jump here in 5. I had this moment. I read before bed and I read in the morning, not every single time. So I'm trying to do a little bit of reading before bed, a little bit of reading in the morning. And it's good because it keeps my head right. I'm reading a book right now called Sapiens. It's the story of human history and Homo sapiens, and it's fascinating as hell. It's Yuval something. I don't know his exact name. World class. Awesome book. It'll get you thinking about, it's a zoom out. That's what I call it. I need a zoom out. I can't read Atomic Habits before bed. That's a morning book. Atomic Habits is a let's get up and get after it book. Before bed, I'm not about to learn about, if I habit stack this, it's like, no, can't do it. So philosophy before bed, productivity in the morning. But I did this zoom out where I said, okay, imagine you're watching yourself from above the room you're in. I have my eyes closed for this, by the way. If you're driving, don't do this. All right, imagine you're in a room and you're seeing yourself from above the room. Okay, now zoom out and imagine the neighborhood that you're in. Now zoom out again and imagine the town you're in, or city. Then zoom out again and imagine the state or province or whatever, geography. And then zoom out and imagine the country. And then zoom out in the continent. And then zoom out, now you see the world. Now zoom out, now you see the Milky Way. Now zoom out, now you see other galaxies. Now zoom out, boom, 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 boom. Now here's where it gets cool. Kevin's got his eyes closed. I opened mine. Now do the same shit, but go inward. Okay, now imagine you, and I want you to zoom in to one of your, organs. Okay,
mitochondria?
That's where we're headed. Don't
to the power. We're headed to the powerhouse of the cell?
The powerhouse of the cell.
Hell yeah.
All right, now you zoom in to an organ, then zoom in. Well, let's do the brain. Zoom in to your brain. Okay, now you see your brain. Okay, zoom in to a brain cell. Now zoom in synapses. Now zoom into the cell. Okay, now you see the nucleus. Okay, zoom into the nucleus. Okay, now you see the mitochondria. Is it outside the nucleus? I honestly don't know. All right, now zoom in, and now you see the molecules. H2O, molecule, a little water in the cell. Okay, now zoom in. Now you got hydrogen and oxygen, 2 oxygen, 1 hydrogen. Okay, now zoom in. You see an atom. Okay, now zoom in. You got quarks, or whatever in quantum physics. Quarks. The point is you can infinitely zoom in with a microscope, and you can infinitely zoom out with a telescope. Very cool. We are a part of something so much bigger. And I think that that's very powerful. And in your world, you are the center of the universe, but there's a much bigger universe out there. And there's a much bigger universe when you go on the micro too. And by the way, that's what micro and macro are: microscope, telescope. So when
Why
you
is it a
zoom out and look at the
macroscope?
world, yeah, it isn't called that, but
Why is it called a telescope? What does
no
tele
idea.
mean?
I have no idea.
Telescope, telephone,
Telegraph,
telegraph,
Telegram.
telegram, telemetry.
Nutella.
I had some yesterday. Nutella toast. I was gonna
I'm
share
sure that helped
something.
your throat.
Honestly, it did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was weird. I had the same thought. I was like, this is gonna be terrible, but it itched my throat on the way down.
Nice.
It only happens when I talk.
It cures
Into the
all
mic.
things.
Nutella?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my drug of choice, I'd say.
It's good stuff.
Nutella's my drug of choice. I was going to say something. Oh. I've been watching a lot of... You were talking about World War II, and I watched... There's this channel I've watched. It's called... I think it's like the Infographic channel or something. And it's this cartoon channel that takes you through historic events. So I watched a couple yesterday. I watched The Last Stand of the 300 Spartans. I watched The Last 24 Hours of Hitler. So when you said that, it was like, oh yeah, I just learned about his last 24 hours. I watched, what else? I watched a bunch of them. And the reason is because I want to learn about that stuff. I think it's cool. It's really cool to learn about stuff that I have no idea about. I'm watching a documentary right now on the Unabomber. I know that's a little dark, but what an interesting human study. The dude lived in the woods with no electricity and no internet, no power, and no running water. And just wild shit. Stuff like that makes me even more curious of the stuff I don't know yet. So I'm going to label myself, and this is in quotes, an overthinker. If you're an overthinker, you've come to the right place. And if you've noticed that Alan and I have gone kind of in a different direction, I think it's because we're trying to figure out who we are, always. And this podcast very much started from a place of philosophy and just having deep conversations and seeing what lessons came from them. And I will always have a soft spot for that.
So what if someone came to you and said, well, what's the point? What's the point of thinking so much? What's the point of learning? What's the point of curiosity? What's the point of these conversations? What would you say?
You will raise your awareness, which gives you more control over all of the outcomes in your life. If I know how to fix a car better than you do, I am in more control than you are. Because I don't have to take my car to someone. I do. But say if my phone screen cracks and I know how to fix that, I don't have to go to those sketchy places in the mall where I don't know how much they're going to charge me or if they're going to take my phone and run away. No idea. But if I know how to fix it myself, I'm in control. Yeah, so I think that, and I am now more than ever of the belief that when you work on yourself internally, the external world affects you less. Or in different ways. Maybe not less, but in different ways.
It doesn't control you. It controls you less.
It controls you less. I think one of the reasons I used to be super certainty focused with all outcomes around me is because I was just wildly uncertain with myself. I'm still certainty focused, but just way less. Way less than I ever was. And I think that's because of deep conversations that essentially don't seem like they matter, but when you see one thing differently, you see everything differently. When you see one thing differently, I've never thought about, okay, now I know this thing about myself. I know that I tend to think somebody is better than they are when I meet them because of blank. That's a really good place to start. Now you replay your entire life and say, well, did I think that about my friends growing up? Did I think that about my teachers? Did I think that about my bosses? Did I think that about my parents? Okay, what does that mean? Are my relationships built on the fact that I think people are better than they are? Better humans, better character than they are? Interesting. Why? What would happen if I didn't? Okay, now if I knew that, would I still be friends with those people? Then you're down the rabbit hole of increasing your consciousness. That's why.
Yeah, it gives you so much more power. That's what empowerment means. To be empowered is to, if you think back to 15-year-old Kev, 25-year-old Kev, 35-year-old Kev, it's 35-year-old Kev is much more empowered
Yes.
because he's more aware and more capable. And that has gone through the accumulated compound effect of learning through deep conversation and podcasts and books. And I remember in the beginning, you didn't know the value of books. That was hard for me. We had a guest we interviewed, and he was like, screw books. I don't like books.
Hell yeah.
I
Hell yeah,
had
man.
such a hard time. Yeah, you were like, hell
yeah, man.
And I remember
Same.
thinking, that's got to be the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I believe that now. At the time, I was on his team for sure.
But I also remember posting on Facebook, very last thing, way, way, way back. And this was more tongue-in-cheek than anything, but I posted on Facebook, this is back when it was mostly college students, and it was just Alan Lazaros is, or Kevin Palmieri is, and then you just put a status. Alan Lazaros is, I read about the dangers of drinking, so I quit reading.
Still one of my favorites I've ever heard.
I thought it was funny.
Still one of my favorites.
I was in college, and I was doing some drinking, so.
When did you get Facebook?
Oh, dude, I don't know. Probably, well, in high school, back in our day, MySpace was the one.
See,
and
I
I
never
know you
got
didn't.
MySpace.
Never got.
Yeah,
I did Lazo.
Never got MySpace.
Lazo
Who were
was
your?
my-
What was your song? Did you have like a top song? That was a thing, right?
I had Good Will Hunting, the duck pond scene on my.
Yeah.
On my. I don't know. I probably had Trust Company or something for my song.
And people said you think too much, huh? And that was your
Mm-hmm.
scene on MySpace. Did
Yeah.
you know? You probably know. I don't know whether you're watching or listening. What was the guy's name? Tom from MySpace.
Yeah.
Sold the company
Mm-hmm.
for hundreds of millions of dollars, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
and now does photography as a hobby. Dude's living his dream.
Nice.
Nobody knows who he is. Nobody knows where he is. I think he just goes and takes pictures for fun and has all the money in the world, and he's crushing life. So shout out to Tom.
I'm sure there's more to it than that, but
I think that's it.
That's it.
That's
That's
it.
all there is.
That's it.
And that's the end of the episode.
That is the end of the episode. Next Level Nation, if you are looking to be a part, and I know this can be challenging because maybe there is a shortage of people in your life that want to have deep-ass conversations that help you change in positive ways, that is what we are here to do every single day. So if you want to make sure you never miss an opportunity to be part of a deep conversation, subscribe on whatever platform you are listening or watching on, and you'll get a little reminder every time we drop a new episode of NLU.
Way back in the day, Kevin and I went to a speech to see David Meltzer. We missed the time slot. It got moved. We ended up seeing someone named Coach Michael Burt. We interviewed him on the podcast. We enjoyed that interview very much. And we asked a question. I remember, I think I was the one who asked this question. I said, just sell me on why someone should get a coach. And he said, I don't really know how else to explain it because it's such a weird question to get, but I just know how to do it and you don't because I've done it. And so as pretentious as that might have come off, if you want to start, grow, scale, monetize a business online, build a brand, and turn your passion into purpose into profit, I know how to do it because Kevin and I have done it. And if you want to learn how to do it, I've got you. Reach out.
Boom. It sounds weird sometimes when it comes from that perspective, but if it's anything else, it makes total sense. It's like if you have a flat tire, you don't know how to fix it, you bring it to this. If you are sick and you don't know why you're sick,
coaches are there
Everything.
are no teams without coaches.
No.
So it is weird how we don't have coaches for life. You know,
I think
it's very weird.
admittance factor of someone out there, well, maybe it's just the admittance of I would find it would be beneficial for me to connect with someone who would ask me questions that would shift the way I look at myself. You know, that's scary. It could be scary.
For sure.
Also, my lights just jeffed. I don't know what just happened to my lights.
Yeah, I don't know what that was either.
Absolute
I
mayhem
thought that
over
was on
here.
my end, to be honest.
No, something happened with my lights. I don't know. They just got very dull in here all of a sudden. I don't know. But
old
I can't.
Kev would have been freaking out about that. New Kev rolls with the punches because he's so internally developed.
Well, the new Kev is quite. Yeah, he is quite. What's the word when you're like so inner developed? You're like monk mode.
I have no idea.
No, I went to monk school with Jay Shetty. We did it together. Me and Jay Shetty, we did monk school together. That's why I'm so centered. All right, as always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we don't have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Stay next level. Next Level Nation.